The Velanthi princess stood barely 4 feet tall, her luminescent skin casting pale blue shadows across the briefing room floor. And the first thing she did upon seeing me was hiss. Admiral Chen didn't flinch. Neither did I. After 17 years of service and 3 tours in the Outer Rim conflicts, I'd learned that aliens express displeasure in countless ways. Hissing was among the more polite options. Sergeant Major Marcus Cole, the Admiral said, sliding a data tablet across the table. You've been selected for protective detail. Princess Kalith of the Velanthi sovereignty will remain under your care until diplomatic negotiations conclude. I scanned the tablet. Threat assessments. Known assassination attempts. 4 in the past standard year. Political enemies within her own court. The usual complications that came with royal blood. With respect, Admiral, I'm a combat specialist. Not a babysitter. You're whatever I need you to be, Sergeant Major. Chen's eyes held no room for argument. The Velanthi specifically requested human protection. Something about our thermal signatures being difficult to mimic. You run warm. Congratulations. Princess spoke for the first time, her voice carrying the strange harmonic quality of her species, like 2 tones layered over each other. I did not request this arrangement. My father did. Noted, I said. Doesn't change the situation. Her eyes, entirely silver, without visible pupils, narrowed. You will address me as Your Highness. I'll address you however keeps you alive, Princess. The hiss returned, sharper this time. Admiral Chen wisely chose that moment to excuse himself. We stood in silence, measuring each other. She was young by Velanthi standards, barely past their equivalent of adolescence, maybe 19 in human years. Delicate bone structure. Those distinctive cranial ridges that marked Velanthi royalty. And underneath the hostility, something I recognized from countless young soldiers. Fear, poorly hidden. Your quarters are adjacent to mine, I said finally. Connected door. You don't open it for anyone except me. You don't leave without me. You don't. I am not a child. Then stop acting like one and we'll get along fine. Her light flickered, a Velanthi blush, I'd later learn, and she turned away. This is beneath my station. Staying alive usually is. I moved toward the door. Mess hall opens at 600. I'll expect you ready by 530. I do not eat with common soldiers. You do now, Your Highness. The door slid shut behind me, cutting off whatever response she'd prepared. Through the thin walls I heard something crash against the opposite side. I almost smiled. Almost. The first week established our pattern, mutual antagonism maintained through professional necessity. She criticized my methods, my manners, my primitive human bluntness. I ignored most of it, corrected the rest, and kept her alive through 2 separate infiltration attempts she never even knew about. The other soldiers watched us with varying degrees of amusement and pity. Corporal Santos cornered me in the armory on day 5. How's Princess Duty, Sarge? Classified. That bad, huh? He grinned. Heard she threw a datapad at Lieutenant Torres. He shouldn't have touched her without permission. I checked my sidearms charge. Velanthi have different boundaries around physical contact. Not her fault he didn't read the cultural briefing. Santos raised an eyebrow. You defending her now? I'm explaining facts. There's a difference. But he wasn't entirely wrong. Something had shifted, though I couldn't pinpoint when. Maybe it was finding her in the observation deck at 300, staring at unfamiliar stars with an expression I recognized. The particular loneliness of being far from everything you've known. Maybe it was the way she'd started eating breakfast without complaint, though she still refused to sit with anyone but me. On night 8 I heard the connecting door open. I was awake instantly, sidearm in hand, but it was only her. Standing in the doorway in sleeping clothes, her glow dimmed to almost nothing. Princess, I cannot sleep. Her voice had lost its usual edge. The environmental controls. They keep the temperature at human standard. It is too warm. I'll submit a request to lower it. That is not. She stopped. Started again. On Velanthi we do not sleep alone. It is dangerous. Predators target isolated individuals. We sleep in groups. Family groups. I lowered the weapon. You've been alone every night for a week. Yes. The word carried more weight than it should have. I thought about sending her back, about maintaining professional distance, about the 17 regulations this probably violated. Instead I said, there's a chair. By the window. You can stay there if you need to. She didn't thank me. Simply crossed the room, curled into the chair with inhuman flexibility, and closed her eyes. Her glow stabilized to a soft, steady pulse. I didn't sleep well that night. But when I woke at 500, she was still there. And something in her posture had relaxed in a way I hadn't seen before. We didn't discuss it. But the next night, when the door opened again, I just pointed at the chair. By night 12, the chair had migrated closer to the bed. By night 15, I stopped pretending not to notice. The trade summit on Nexus Station brought new threats and forced proximity. 12 days of negotiations, 100 potential assassins among the delegates, and a princess who had developed the inconvenient habit of trusting exactly one person in the galaxy. You're hovering, Kaleth said, not looking up from her datapad. That's literally my job, you hover closer than necessary. She finally met my eyes. The Morkathi delegate noticed. He asked if humans practice companion bonding. I kept my face neutral. What did you tell him? That you are my protector. Nothing more. A pause. He laughed. Said protectors do not watch their charges the way you watch me. And how do I watch you? Like you are afraid I will disappear. I didn't have an answer for that. Mostly because she wasn't wrong. The negotiations dragged through day 4 without incident. Day 5 brought the first real test. I spotted the assassin 3 seconds before she moved. A Velanthi female in servant's garb. Her glow patterns wrong. Her movements too controlled. My body was already in motion when the blade cleared her sleeve. I hit the princess low, taking us both to the ground as the knife sang through the space her throat had occupied. My second shot caught the assassin's center mass. She crumpled. Chaos erupted. Screaming. Running. Dot. Security converging from all directions. Underneath me, Kaleth was completely still. Are you hurt? I demanded. No. Her voice was strange. You put yourself between me and the blade. That's your job. Yes. Her hand found my arm, grip surprisingly strong. Marcus. Your shoulder. I looked down. The knife had caught me after all. A shallow slice across the deltoid, bleeding freely but not serious. Adrenaline had masked it. Nothing. You are bleeding for me. Those silver eyes held something new. No one has ever bled for me. Security finally reached us, pulling me up. Medical teams swarming. I lost sight of her in the chaos, found her again only when they tried to separate us for a debriefing, and she refused, loudly, with that harmonic voice raised to a near shriek that made human ears ring. He stays with me. No title. No formality. Just that simple declaration, and the look she gave the security chief promised consequences if he argued. They let me stay. Later in her quarters, she insisted on cleaning the wound herself. I tried to argue. She pulled rank, the only time she'd done so for personal reasons. Your people practice this, she said, dabbing antiseptic with unexpected gentleness. Caring for wounds. In my culture, to tend another's injury creates obligation. What kind of obligation? The wounded owes the healer a service. A favor to be called upon. Her hands paused. But you were wounded protecting me. So I believe. I owe you. You don't owe me anything. You truly believe that? She resumed her work, something like wonder in her tone. My own guards would have let the blade find me if it meant preserving themselves. It is not dishonorable among my people to prioritize survival. It is among mine. I am beginning to understand that. The bandage secured, she sat back. Marcus. I must tell you something about Velanthi's sleep customs. Okay. When I said we sleep in family groups, this is true. But there is another form. Companion sleeping. It is intimate. Reserved for bonded pairs. For those who have chosen each other. My stomach tightened. Princess, Kaleth. When we are alone, I would like you to use my name. Kaleth. I didn't mean to. I know. She raised a hand. I am not accusing you of impropriety. I am explaining that by Velanthi standards what we have been doing carries meaning. Every night I spend in your quarters, I am telling my instincts that you are safe. That you are mine to trust. Her glow flickered. I did not intend this either. But I cannot seem to stop. Do you want to stop? The question surprised us both. She took a long moment before answering. No, that frightens me. It frightens me too, I admitted, but not enough to send you back to sleeping alone. That night she moved from the chair to the edge of the bed. Not touching. Just close enough that I could hear her breathing slow into sleep. I stayed awake for hours, watching the play of her light against the ceiling, wondering when exactly I'd stop thinking of her as an assignment. The attack on the station came on day 9. Morkathi separatists, 3 cruisers, coordinated assault, the kind of military precision that spoke of inside intelligence. The station's shields held for the first hour. Then they didn't. I had Kaleth in the secure bunker before the first boarding parties breached. 12 other VIPs huddled in the reinforced space, guarded by a mixed squad of human and alien security. I should have felt confident. I didn't. Something is wrong, Kaleth said, pressing close to my side. Everything's wrong. We're under attack. No, something specific. Her eyes were distant, that silver gaze unfocused. I feel wrongness. Close. Velanthi had mild empathic sensitivity. I'd read that in the cultural briefings, dismissed it as superstition. Now I paid attention. Where? I cannot. She stiffened. The guard. 3rd from the left. His emotions are controlled. Too controlled. Like a void. I looked. Human male, standard security uniform, nothing obviously wrong. But Kaleth's instincts had saved us before. I moved casually toward the man, pretending to check the door seals. Got within arm's reach. Saw his hand drift toward his sidearm a fraction of a second too early. The fight was brief and brutal. He had training. I had more. When it ended, he was unconscious and zip-tied, and the small explosive charge he'd been reaching for was safely disabled. How did you know? Someone asked Kalith. I felt it. She was staring at me, not the prisoner. But Marcus acted. Without hesitation. Without demanding proof. You said something was wrong. That was enough. The other VIPs looked at us with varying expressions. Confusion. Suspicion. Something that might have been envy. A Korvathi diplomat leaned toward his aide and whispered something about human companion bonds. The station's power flickered. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Secondary breach crackled from someone's comm. Deck 7. They're heading for the bunkers. How many? I asked. 20 plus. Full assault configuration. I looked at our security complement. 8 guards, 2 of whom were already dealing with the prisoner. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Options? That was Admiral Chen's aide, voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. We hold position and hope reinforcements arrive, one guard said. Or we run and hope they don't catch us. Both options end poorly. I pulled up the station schematic on my wrist display. But there's a third choice. The maintenance tunnels connect to docking bay 4. If someone creates a distraction, draws them away, that's suicide, the guard said. Only if they catch me. I turned to Kalith. The tunnels are tight. Small group, moving fast, could reach the bay in 20 minutes. There's an emergency shuttle. It'll hold everyone here. And you? Her voice was too calm. I buy you time. No. Kalith. I said no. Her light flared bright enough to cast shadows. I will not allow you to die for me. It's not your choice. Then, I am making it mine. She stepped forward and something in her expression made everyone else take a step back. You asked once how protectors watch their charges. I will tell you how I watch you, Marcus Cole. Like you are the only warmth in a cold station. Like you are the first person who has ever seen me as something other than a political asset. Like losing you would break something in me that I did not know existed until you refused to let me sleep alone. The bunker had gone very quiet. I am Velanthi royalty, she continued. I have resources. Favors, debts that can be called. And I'm telling you now in front of witnesses that if you go out there alone, I will follow. I will fight beside you or die beside you. That is my choice. You're not trained for combat. Then I will learn quickly. Her chin lifted. Or we find another way. Together. I stared at her. This small, fierce creature who had hissed at me 3 weeks ago, who had called me common and beneath her, who had somehow become the center of everything. Together, I said finally. But you stay behind me. Acceptable. The plan we devised was desperate, and probably stupid. Half the group would take the tunnels, while the other half, the combat-capable half, created a mobile distraction, drawing the boarders away and then circling back to the bay. It required perfect timing, considerable luck, and the assumption that I could keep a Velanthi princess alive in a running firefight. We made it. Barely. By the time we reached the shuttle, Kalith had blood on her hands, not hers, and a captured enemy weapon clutched in fingers that had stopped trembling. She'd done what I told her. Stayed behind me. But when a boarder had gotten past my guard, she'd driven a maintenance tool into his throat without hesitation. Are you okay? I asked once we were in hyperspace. She looked at her hands. I did not know I could do that. Most people don't until they have to. Is this what it is like for you? Every battle? Sometimes. It gets easier. Or you get better at putting it away. She moved closer, pressing against my side despite the crowded shuttle. Will you teach me? How to put it away? Yeah. I put my arm around her, ignoring the stares. Yeah, I can do that. She slept against my shoulder for the entire journey home. I stayed awake, watching over her, knowing that something had fundamentally changed and finding that I didn't mind. The diplomatic crisis resolved 3 weeks later, the Morkathi separatists captured, the negotiations successfully concluded, the alliance secured. Princess Kalith of the Velanthi sovereignty was scheduled to return home. I received orders for reassignment. Frontier patrol. Far from anything resembling diplomatic work. We had 1 night left. You could come with me, she said. We were in my quarters. Our quarters, really, since she hadn't slept anywhere else in a month. I have already spoken to my father. He would grant you a position in the Royal Guard. I'm a Terran soldier. My place is here. Your place is wherever you choose it to be. She stood at the window, her light dimmed to almost nothing. A Velanthi sign of distress I'd learned to recognize. That is what you taught me. That duty and choice can coexist. Kalith, I know. She turned. I know you will say the responsible thing. That we barely know each other. That 3 weeks is nothing. That this could be infatuation, or trauma bonding, or 100 other rational explanations. Wasn't going to say any of that. Then what? I crossed to her. took her hands small, cool, faintly luminescent against my scarred fingers. I was going to say that if I go with you, I can't protect you properly. I'd be a foreigner in your court. No allies, no understanding of the politics, no ability to see threats coming. Here, I'm effective. There, I'd be a liability. That is not, let me finish. I tightened my grip, but that's the excuse. The truth is, I'm scared. I'm 42 years old. I've been a soldier since I was 17. I don't know how to be anything else. And the way you look at me. Or, you see someone better than I am. Someone worthy of everything you're offering. I'm afraid that if I follow you home, you'll eventually see the real me. And I don't know if I could survive that. Her light pulsed. Something complex I couldn't interpret. You think I do not know who you are. I have seen you kill. I have seen you risk everything for strangers. I have seen you wake from nightmares you pretend you do not have. I have watched you be patient when you wanted to be harsh, and gentle when you wanted to be distant. I know exactly who you are, Marcus Cole. And I am still here. Still asking you to come home with me. She released one hand to touch my face. In Velanthi tradition, there is a ceremony. When a companion bond is formalized. It requires the bonded pair to spend one night completely sleepless, watching each other, learning each other without the refuge of dreams. It is meant to ensure that both parties see truly, without illusion. Sounds intense. It is. Most couples fail. The intimacy is too much. But I have already spent countless nights watching you sleep. And you have watched me. We have already passed the test we did not know we were taking. I thought about the frontier. Empty space. Meaningful work, maybe, but cold. Alone. I thought about her light in my darkness. Your father might not approve. A human companion. A commoner. My father nearly lost me twice. He will approve of anyone who brings me home alive. Her other hand found mine again. And you are not a commoner. Not to me. Not to anyone who saw what you did on that station. The other Velanthi will adjust. Or they will not. I find I care less about their opinions than I once did. She smiled, a human expression she'd learned from me. You taught me that too. I'm starting to think you've learned too much from me. Perhaps. She stepped closer. Perhaps I've learned exactly enough. Enough to know that I do not want to sleep alone anymore. Enough to know that warmth is worth more than tradition. Enough to know that home is not a place. It is a person. I looked at her. This small, fierce princess who had hated me on sight and now stood offering me everything. If I come with you, I said slowly, I need you to understand something. I can't be a decoration. I can't stand beside your throne looking pretty while real threats go unaddressed. If I'm your protector, I protect you. That means I might make enemies in your court. I might cause diplomatic incidents. I might occasionally tell your father things he doesn't want to hear. I would expect nothing less. And this, I gestured between us, whatever this is. It's not just companion bonding or sleeping customs or any of that. For me, this is... I don't have words for what this is. Then do not use words. She rose onto her toes, bringing her face close to mine. Show me instead. I kissed her. It was nothing like what I'd expected, her lips cool where mine were warm, that faint luminescence tingling against my skin. But underneath the strangeness was something achingly familiar, connection. Recognition. The feeling of coming home to a place you'd never been. When we finally separated, her light was blazing bright enough to illuminate the entire room. Is that normal? I asked. I do not know. She laughed. Another human expression, and hearing it from her felt like victory. I have never felt this before, but I believe it means yes. It means you have your answer. I didn't ask a question, you did. Every time you let me stay. Every time you chose my safety over your own. Every time you watched me sleep like you were afraid I would disappear. She took my hand, pressed it against her chest where something pulsed in an unfamiliar rhythm. This is my answer, Marcus. This is me choosing you. The rest is details. Details? Packing? Briefings. Admiral Chen's knowing smile when I submitted my resignation. The shocked faces of my squad when I told them where I was going. You're leaving the service for a woman? Santos asked. I'm leaving the service for a life, I corrected. There's a difference. He didn't understand. Most of them wouldn't. But that was okay. I'd spent 17 years serving humanity's interests. Maybe now I could serve my own. On the transport to Velanthi Prime, Caleth fell asleep against my shoulder within minutes of departure. I stayed awake, watching the stars streak past, feeling the warmth of her pressed against my side. I'd been assigned as her protector. It was supposed to be temporary, a job, nothing more. But somewhere between the first hiss and the last kiss, temporary had become permanent. Guardian had become partner. And the princess, who'd started sleeping beside me every night, had become something I'd never expected to find. Home. Outside the viewport, unfamiliar constellations wheeled past. Ahead lay a world I'd never seen, a culture I barely understood, a future I couldn't predict. I wasn't afraid. For the first time in 17 years, I wasn't afraid of anything at all.